Tonganoxie regular scheduled board meeting for April 12th. With that, would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That we would need a motion to approve the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda?
Second. All right, all in favor? Unanimous decision. With that, brings us to item 1.4, presentation from Forrest Kreger.
Hi, everyone. I know I'm always at these board meetings, kind of behind the scenes, so it is kind of nice to be out in front and be able to talk to you about technology in the district. So, one of the big things that we've got going on right now is working with the building of the new high school. I've been working a lot recently with Kansas Audio Video, is doing our audio video for our classrooms and commons areas and things like that. And so we've been working with them quite a bit. It's kind of exciting because they're really getting close to starting some of my projects, like the network wire and stuff like that. I've got a meeting Friday with Aaron and Envision to go over and kind of finalize our network wiring. That's probably the next big thing we've got going on. And I mean, they're real close to actually starting to pull some wire now, so that's exciting for me. I will say, I did want to say on the Envision got the bid for the network wiring. We did that through E-rate this year, so actually 70% of our networking infrastructure will be paid by E-rate, and then only 30% will have to be out of bond money. And I will note also that Envision's the one that they got the bid, and they've been doing our fiber work at the high school too. They've been doing a great job. I'm going to jump right into Chromebooks. Middle school and high school, after meeting with administrators at both buildings, we decided that we did want to have students go ahead and still take Chromebooks home over the summer. High school's been taking their Chromebooks home over the summer for the last 2 years. It's worked really well. Middle school did it this last year with COVID, but we wanted to continue it in the future. I think it affords us some extra benefits of having the students have the Chromebook at home in the summer, especially 8th graders going up to be freshmen. Some of them are taking driver's ed and they need their Chromebook. Some will be taking, we've got summer school going on this year for middle school. They'll need them for that. And we've even got high school teachers that have, they set up Google Classrooms in the summer for summer reading lists and things like that for the incoming kids that next year. So, we all agreed that we thought it was a good idea. I was really leery of that at first. I don't think I ever, if you'd asked me that 5 years ago or something, I would have been like, oh no, we can't send them home in the summertime. I've been pleasantly surprised with how well it's worked. I was worried at first that we might have a lot of damage from it, but we really didn't, not at all. So, we've been really happy with that, and we'd like to continue it. Okay, so new students, Chromebooks for the district. You'll see later on in the agenda, you will have the opportunity to approve our Chromebook purchases for this upcoming year. I went a little different. I always kind of wanted, in the back of my head, to get to that point when prices come down, of actually getting, and when we, got a one-to-one established, I wanted to be able to purchase a higher-end Chromebook for our students to use. Because I think some of the nicer Chromebooks are a little faster, they can handle a little more work. The new ones are 2-in-1s, so they flip over, they have dual cameras in them. And we came across, we got this opportunity, I think, this year. In the past, I've always bought ASUS Chromebooks, last 3 years, we've always bought ASUS. Dell had sent me a demo unit this year, and I'll pass it around because this is the ones that we've actually opted to buy. I was really impressed with the build quality of it. And you'll feel it, I'll pass it around, you'll feel it, it's a little heavier than the Acers. I think it'll hold up better. First thing we do when we get a demo unit is we take it completely apart and then see how hard it is to work on it and put it all back together. And it did really well. Simple, simple to work on. This one is we wanted to purchase 450, and they're the Dell 3100s 2-in-1s. All the input I got from other tech directors that have been using these devices has been very positive. I didn't have any negatives. This one's actually got a gumdrop case on it, it's called. We're kind of testing out that case. But, I mean, I'll pass it around. You can see it's a really sturdy device, good keyboard. It's got dual cameras. Gives students some options. It's 2-in-1, so you can just flip it open, use it like a tablet. It is touch screen. Gorilla Glass will make it pretty sturdy too. And those will be issued to our normal rotation, 1st grade, 5th grade, and 9th grade will be getting it. I wanted to put this in there because I think it's important to note, during COVID, when COVID was in full swing and people were staying home, we had a lot of technology supply issues. Luckily, I ordered Chromebooks early enough last year in supplies that it really didn't affect us at all this year. So, that being said, I'm still noticing supply issues right now. It seems that supply issues have actually kind of picked back up. We're having longer lead times when ordering devices. I wanted you to be aware that I'm working with vendors to make sure that we get stuff ordered with enough lead time, that we get the devices and we don't interrupt any kind of our students' education. Okay, the 1 million project. We started this project 2 years ago with Sprint, and actually should be the end of the 3rd year, where they gave us hotspots to hand out to students and families that had poor internet connections. Well, if you've dealt with any of the hotspots, it's kind of a mixed bag. Sometimes they work for you, sometimes they don't. We just run into the problem with, if you get outside of town, some of our internet or our cell signal is not that great. So, that being said, Sprint got bought out by T-Mobile. T-Mobile is going to continue the project, but they've rebranded it. It's the 10 million project now. And they've supplied us with, and I've got them over in my office already, they shipped them to me, 60 new hotspots that are T-Mobile hotspots. And I've been told that they'll work better than the Sprint ones even. So next year we'll be able to hand out hotspots. We'll have them in our libraries to check out to families. The 1 million project, the Sprint ones, we do probably have an active 30 hotspots out there that students are using at home. I get a monthly report on their usage. So I'm very positive about the 10 million. I'm glad T-Mobile's continuing it. It's completely free. The families don't pay anything, and neither does the district. This is one thing I'm really excited about is, so in the past we've used a web filter called Security, and we've used it for the last 3 years. Our contract was, we signed a 3-year contract, and it was up this summer. So I started just about that time I usually start evaluating other products also, and then decide whether to continue with Security or move on. And for the last 2 months I've been using GoGuardian. GoGuardian is a company that we already use in the district. Our teachers have, they use a product called GoGuardian Teacher, and it allows them control over the students' Chromebooks when they're in their classroom. You know, they can shut tabs, lock students to certain windows. The students can even ask questions through GoGuardian. It's been really helpful, and actually with remote learners, it's been extremely helpful this year. So I wanted to look at their filter, because I'd always been impressed with their GoGuardian Teacher part of it. And the filter blew me away. I find that it's a lot more robust than Securely, I think. It seems to catch a lot more things that would get by. If you go in and look, the very bulk of our internet traffic right now is what you would want. I mean, it's all educationally related. When before we were always kind of battling game sites and illegal movie streaming and things like that, and we've all, with GoGuardian in the last 2 months, been able to, get rid of that. There's a parent component that will, allow people to sign up for at the beginning of next year. Testing it so far, I found it to be more reliable than Securely. Sometimes Securely would say it was blocking things, but it necessarily wasn't. I tried it out with a couple parents, and we had really good luck with it. So I'm excited about it. Now, I'm sure that kids hate it because, we get students that type in searches because I think they know we're seeing it, and why are you blocking everything in the Google search, and it'll pull up on our screens. To kind of put it in perspective, though, on a given day we have around 100 to 110,000 page hits on the internet from our district. We only block about 400 of those, so we're only blocking 4/10 of all internet traffic. So yeah, I don't want to overblock, but I do want to take care of the game sites. Because I will say we do find out that game sites tend to wear out our keyboards quicker too, especially certain keys. Another thing, I'm finding a lot of things that I was excited about at this update. So Midco, earlier in the year, we had problems with DDoS attacks within the district. DDoS attacks are hard to prevent. You usually have to rely on your internet service provider a lot, or a third-party company. Problems with hiring third-party companies, it tends to end up slowing your overall connection down. Midco at that time was not offering any kind of help. So, I've been in constant contact with them over the last 4 or 5 months, and they've had other vendors contact them also about this, because DDoS attacks are becoming, just in general on the internet, a big problem. Midco is now, within the next month, is going to be offering DDoS protection for the district. It would be a $200 to $300 increase in our monthly bill, but it'd be well worth it, I think. That's all I had. If you guys have questions for me, I'm happy to talk about it or answer anything.
And maybe I didn't hear you, Forrest. Is the GoGuardian, is that as well a 3-year
Yes.
contract?
Yeah, I tend to like to go with services like filters, 3-year contracts, because it gives you a chance to actually use the product, work the bugs out of it, and give it a fair shot, I think. Do 1 year drop, keeping something for 1 year and then just dropping it, I've never found to be a great idea, because then the next year you're just relearning something else. So yes, it is a 3-year deal. I worked with Lori on it to actually, we paid our 3-year agreement up front. So over 3 years, we ended up saving another $5,000 for the district, because they gave us a discount because of that. I would also say, I didn't put it on the update, but for our Chromebook licensing, we typically pay $26 for we have to buy a license every time we issue a Chromebook. Well, Google, this year, they were gonna do it last year, but when COVID hit, they put it off, but they've actually gone ahead and done it now. They've increased their licensing like $8 per device. So what I did was I used some money I had and I went and I bought the next 2.5 years worth of licenses at the lower discounted rate. So actually we've saved, I think it was $6,000 or $7,000 I figured over the next 3 years. We saved by buying the licensing early.
Anybody else?
You'd mentioned the new Chromebooks are more performant than the old ones. Does it make any sense to give the more performant Chromebooks to the older kids versus the first, third, and fifth that you mentioned, or?
Well, I mean, when we originally set it up to do, you know, if we injected the newer Chromebooks at 5th grade, then they would just carry it with them for the next 4 years.
Oh, okay.
And then at that time, we found, you know, Chromebook's pretty worn out by the end of 4 years. And I think if you get 4 years out of a device that's only costing you $250 is a pretty good return. I mean, that's
just curiosity.
Yeah, that's a good point, Justin. That's just originally how we set the rotation up. And then with first graders, yes, the device will follow them for the next 4 years.
Okay.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
That brings us to item 1.5, update from Aaron Merrill on the project.
Great, good evening. Okay, so, high school project is going along well. As most of you know, we had the topping out ceremony, last week. A little bit of, weather that was super fun, but, it was really exciting and, there's a ton going on out there, so. So hitting on the budget update real quick here. This top column, you can see baseline and current have remained steady. In the forecast column, you'll see some numbers shift around there. So basically, this is forecasting moving the funds that were approved for the district enhancements at the previous board meeting. So that's coming out of the facility improvement allowance and shifting into McCowan's GMP. So that's where you see that number shifting there. On the contingency detail, again, you will see the forecast decrease in the facility improvement allowance, taking out those approved changes. Sorry, I'm going from bottom to top here. The district project contingency has not been used as of today. Soft cost forecast, no change in the forecast. We used a little bit of that for some additional design, doing some of those design change at work through DLR. And then the project GMP contingency, which was $1 million, currently stands at $805,000, with a forecast of $790,000 for a few little things that are kind of floating around out there that we know about. Moving into schedule, substantial completion dates, no changes there. Still tracking really well on the Learning Center addition, and they are working from building D, which is the new cafeteria, around to the admin area in the 2-story building. So D is actually moving along really, really fast. So starting to have some conversations there. I'm trying to get that closed in and start finishes a little bit ahead of schedule. So weather days, For March, you can see they used one more weather day than allowed in their contract, but as I said, they're still on schedule, so no concerns with any claims for additional weather time at this point. Key deliverables, all I really have on here this month is the furniture acceptance agreement. So this is a form that Scott Rice, the furniture vendor, will put together once all the furniture has been selected, that will indicate all the finishes, the materials, and the costs. So that's kind of the last approval before they order everything. So it's a real important date to hit, make sure we have available lead time for all of that to get here. Other key milestone dates, the permanent power is scheduled to be delivered to the site this month, so McCown is working with Evergy to get that connected to the new building. So that's anticipated for 4/20. The work in the north parking lot, I have this on here as 5/14, and after I fill this in, talk to McCown, it's actually 5/12. They're gonna take that north parking lot a little bit before they worked out with the administration to take it a few days before school is out, and work around with some of the parking capacities there, so they can finish up and have a brand new parking lot all across that north and west side come fall. Learning Center dry-in, so it's kind of, the critical point where you get a roof on, you get kind of the walls closed in, so you can start drywall and finishes. So that'll start happening in early July. So you'll see a lot of changes happening on the inside of the building at that point. Shooting for the ability to do state health inspection on the kitchen in September, and TCO inspection for the Learning Center in November, and furniture and FF&E in December. So moving right along, and you can see the dates there for some of the other upcoming phases, which have not changed. Still doing really well on the safety aspect. There have been no injuries on the job site to date. So the county is doing a great job of maintaining that. So moving into key issues and changes. Already talked about the topping out ceremony, which was a fun event. And the summer work upcoming, again, everybody is aware of the north parking lot work, and that those access points will be shut off for the rest of the summer. The team's been working with the district to work on how summer school and the other summer activities at the buildings, and are going to get around and get access in and out. So there'll also be work going on in the corridors around the TPAC and the gym, doing those floors and ceilings this summer. And they'll also be doing a little bit of work on the west campus, really doing the exterior improvements needed to get the fire sprinkler into that building. So I kind of left on here the early procurement of construction materials. There's really been nothing new there. McCowan continues to have their subcontractors get materials as soon as possible. So far, everything has been stored off-site at the subs facilities. And the one thing we're tracking with the FF&E procurement is trying to get the appliances ordered probably here in the next month, because they are impossible to get right now, considering I'm supposed to have my fridge in March, and it's now June.
Oh, no.
So FF&E procurement, other items, before us just talk about some of the technology. That's been going really well. Pretty much have all those vendors on board, other than some of the gear that Forrest is getting ready to send out an RFP for. So all those different subcontractors are working together to coordinate all the rough-in, which has been a task, and they're really stepping up to the plate on that. So the digital monument sign, we talked about this last month, and finalizing a design and layout that is what the administration and the district would like to see there. It will exceed the residential zoning codes, which are very limiting, because the school is in a residential district versus a commercial district, even though it's on the highway. So it will still require a variance. So once that design is complete, which should have that here in the next week or so, we can review that and move forward with that process. Move management, the FSI is still working on putting together kind of a scope of work, and is trying to meet with different people, different administration folks, to make sure that all the different items that need to be moved for all these various moves are accounted for. So that is ongoing, and with the target of kind of getting the scope finalized next month. And then project design enhancements, this kind of goes back to the previous meeting we had, and that second column of items for the next phase of the work, hoping to come back to the board to discuss those as they become more critical to the schedule in August. So other than that, included in the report a few pictures of the topping out ceremony and the work going on the job site, as well as the complete change order log to date, which I'm not going to go through all these, but if you have any questions, let me know. Any questions?
Oh. I think so.
I don't. Aaron's been great about communication with myself, and either we talk every Wednesday at the OAC meetings, but also probably several times during the week as needed, and so that's always been very appreciated, from my point, which this makes us feel like we're highly organized and all on the same page. So that's what I appreciate. So I have no questions about the process.
Other than the kitchen appliances, anything else seem to be problematic in getting, or?
No, steel still remains an issue, but obviously all the steel for this phase is on site, and the shop drawings for the athletics edition have all been approved.
So it's in production?
Yeah, so they're getting out ahead of when they need all that. So all the things we know about, Callan is out ahead of.
Very good.
So, and even the things we don't, they have been very, like I said, very proactive. Even if it's something that isn't out there that we know there's a delay on, if they can go ahead and order it, they're ordering it,
Right.
which is good and bad. As long as you don't change anything, it's good.
Absolutely.
Makes it harder to change things, but it's probably part of their goal too.
Absolutely.
All right.
Very good. Thank you, Aaron.
You're gonna probably stay
And I
here.
assume you're sticking around?
I'm staying here.
Yeah, he's up next too. So are we gonna bring Bill in on a Zoom?
It's here on the
He's on
phone.
the phone.
Okay, just on the phone, okay. Bill, you there?
So with
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You're up.
So Bill and I spoke earlier, and since I'm here in person, I'll do kind of a brief overview, and then Bill can jump in here as well. But I believe you've all seen the proposal I have up on the screen, and so this is just kind of a result of us coming before the board last month discussing Bill's review of the elementary school HVAC and the issues that were happening over the last several months. forward to the recommendation to replace those, the VRF systems. And after evaluating it, really, Bill's recommendation was that it'd be very difficult to do it correctly and get it done by this summer, which you'd have to do the work over a non-occupied time. So this proposal addresses this as a take your time, do it right, go RFP a design firm that can properly evaluate different approaches and pick the correct approach that best suits the district needs and the schedule. Also RFP for a construction manager because the scope of work will be more than just mechanical. Getting above the ceilings, reworking all those items as well. Bringing those two folks together to put together a really good plan, and then going out for a competitive RFP with a pre-selected group of contractors. So you get competitive pricing on equipment and mechanical contractors there. So overall, it sounds like a really long time. This is stretches out over an 18-month period, basically starting from next month, should the board approve this process, going through the completion of the construction work at the end of next summer. So the intent would be that the entire school's system, VRS system, would be completed over a single summer versus stretching out over 2 summers. So Bill, do you want to add anything from a technical perspective?
Now, I'm not sure how technical it is, but I just want to bring up one thing that was a part of our discussion. It's apparent that there are certain, for lack of a better term, deficiencies in the installation, and our approach for 2022 will be to have a select group of bidders. We will likely limit the VRF systems that can be provided. In other words, we're going to limit VRF systems to those with a good track record. And in order to avoid some piping practices, poor piping practices, it's my intention that we engage an inspector from the manufacturer to review the work. So we're going to ensure that the piping is installed properly, which in this system is an important factor in making it work right.
Yeah, thanks, Bill.
Okay.
So the scope of work that was included in here kind of broke up into 2 phases, more or less, of pre-construction or project development and construction administration. So the intent is really that Bill and I, mainly Bill, would be performing the same services we have for the district on the high school bond project, focusing on this project with Bill's expertise, sitting in with the design process and ensuring that the team is following what the district's goals are, and those are getting implemented into the design, as well as monitoring the construction manager's budgeting along the way, so we get to a point where we have a complete design that is executable from a budget standpoint. And then during construction, doing the site evaluations, monitoring the progress, maintaining the communication with the district and the staff, working around summer activities, or other things that need to happen in the building to prepare for that work. And then, as Bill mentioned, the factory inspections along the way, and at the completion of the project, ensuring a proper closeout, punch lists, and warranties, making sure you guys get the warranties that are promised, and doing all the billing and contracting review along the way.
You know, I think it's important, the board, and I think the board knows this, but there's no quick fix here. This is a process that's gonna take time. And even visiting with Bill and people like P1 Group that have been trying to fix some of the damage. Even to replace the VRFs, it's not gonna be done in just a couple of weeks. I mean, it's a long process, and, you know, we're targeting July, you know, as a time when there's no kids in the building, no staff in the building, and that may not even work the way we would like for it to work. It'll be a real push.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you tried to do a quick fix to have something by summer of '21, it would not be what you
Never.
want, and it would not be a long-term solution.
Yeah.
So to spend this amount of money, I'm gonna take the time, evaluate the design, make sure you're doing the right thing, and procure the equipment, which, you know, if you order equipment today, you won't have it this summer.
No.
The way things go right now, so that's the intent with this process, is to do the design right, have everything planned and ready to go, so as soon as the kids get out of school, summer of '22, hit the ground running, full speed.
Good.
So is it common for the manufacturer to inspect or supervise the work being done by the contractor in this application?
Bill, you wanna speak to that?
Yeah, in this application, it's fairly common.
Okay.
Because the piping practices require distances between sensors and valves, and, you know, it's a lot of minutia that, in total, done right, then the system works right. And done poorly, then systems don't sense flow, don't sense temperature, the way they're supposed to.
So in the high school,
So- Yeah.
I would assume that if it needs to be done here, then in that project, it's being done as well, right?
So the high school is a different system, it's not a VRS system.
Yeah.
It's a packaged rooftop, VAB type system, so.
It's all foreign language. I mean, I believe you.
It's a more traditional
It's a more traditional, yeah.
RTU,
Yeah.
rooftop unit.
So this same process doesn't need to be followed there. I mean, I guess it's just disappointing to,
It's frustrating.
Yeah.
yes, and there's no recourse, I guess,
No.
Right.
It's
Different
just-
systems and different inspection
Well, I think
required.
The deal here, Bill, it's not just that it was installed improperly, I think.
No. But when we look at the whole process, you know, we want to avoid some things that we know that weren't done properly. And that's what I'm trying to emphasize. That's all.
So what is the warranty moving forward with this project?
You mean for the elementary school?
Right.
The-
With upgrading the equipment? What will the warranty be on the new equipment?
It depends by manufacturer and equipment.
I don't think we know yet.
Yeah, I think once you determine which product you're gonna go through.
We don't know yet, and we can also purchase extended warranties. So that'll be a part of probably the pricing is, we'll see what an extended warranty would cost.
Okay.
We can present all that information to you.
Okay.
So the system that gave us trouble over the winter, is that also a cooling system as well?
Yes.
It's a combination, but go ahead, Bill, if you want to elaborate.
Yes, it is. It's also the heating system. To relate to residential, it's like a heat pump.
Okay,
It's a
so,
very complicated heat pump.
so obviously, you know, over the winter, we could do things like space heaters and other things, still had a lot of noise. You know, when we come back to school in August, should we expect similar issues on the other side with cooling as we did with heat, i.e. it's not gonna cool? Is that right?
Well, for one thing, and
Well-
I'll jump in there, Bill, we're gonna do, one of the first things we're gonna do is a electrical surge study. That may be
Yes.
some of our issues, with blowing all the break, not, would you call them breakers, Bill, or, fuses up on those VFRs?
Fuses and sometimes it fries the electronics, it gets past everything.
We're spending a lot of money on just the boards being fried. And that's what happened
Right.
with, was it the kindergarten pod? I can't remember which one it
Yeah.
was. And we fixed it, put a lot of money in it, and then boom, we lost it again.
So is there surge protection?
We're looking at that. We're doing a study to see if we are having surges that are causing some of these issues.
So back to my question though, in August.
We could still be having problems.
and
To cool the building.
And the classrooms will be hot, not.
What do you think, Bill? We're gonna continue to Band-Aid.
That's probably the most accurate statement. To find out and make sure that the power coming into the building is clean, or, you know, we need to know that. But number two, we're gonna continue to have to react to failures. Now, I mean, when the kids come back to school, I'm sure it's Mitch's and P1's intention, everything's gonna be working. The issue is, and I've referred to it as a whack-a-mole, you know, when we don't know which mole's gonna stick its head up next. So we're gonna have to react.
No guarantees.
Yeah. Well, I just think given,
Right.
given the amount of noise there was
No,
around heating, there'll be 10 times as much
No.
noise around cooling. So,
we understand. There's urgency, you know, but we gotta do it the right way.
I get it.
So, thanks, Bill.
Yes, sir.
So, are there any other questions on the scope or what we're proposing here?
So once the scope is defined, the contractors are selected, we're bidding apples to apples, not apples to oranges, right?
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
contractor A, B, or C, we're using the same equipment, the same, or are they going to present something totally different?
No, they're gonna be, I'm sorry,
No, you go ahead.
they're gonna be bidding the design that we come up with.
Okay.
Now, they can always submit voluntary alternates, right?
Okay.
And, you know, we did that a little bit on the high school building where, you know, training was the basis of design for the units. But you had contractors come in with, different kinds, different manufacturers. But Bill actually spent a lot of time going through that with McCown Gordon because, you know, it's not apples to apples, right? So,
Right.
So if that were to happen, that would be very heavily managed.
Have we talked to anybody else besides P1? You know, kind of the second opinion thing?
Well, they've got the most knowledge easily. And we felt like going through this process with Bill would put us down the right path. I mean, to bring in somebody else for a second opinion, is that what you sort of mean?
Yeah.
They just don't have the background, not even close to the.
Sometimes that's good.
Well, a separate set of eyes, I get it, but there could be a lot of time invested in them just trying to know what's going on.
We got all
Yes.
summer.
So we talked about
I don't
that.
think it hurts to get another set of eyes.
So that was the intent of kind
Well-
of having Bill,
Yeah.
review what P1 wrote up
Mm.
and do a little bit of investigative work on his own. And or less agreed with most of what P1 had pointed out as what was causing the issues.
Yes, and I apologize. I'm not getting every comment, but in essence, I kind of was a second opinion, not in a full-blown engineering sense, but I reviewed the last 18 months of invoices from P1 on the elementary school, and part of it was to see if I could pick up on a pattern, or just something from experience that would cause us to go look at a solution. And out of that, the discussion about how clean the power is coming into the elementary school, that kind of came out of part of my review and subsequent discussions. But the repairs and 18 months of repairs were just absolutely random. I couldn't find a pattern. I couldn't find this one part of each unit was failing every time there was a service call. It was absolutely random, and because of that, that's why replacing the system became part of the discussion.
So,
Did that?
yeah, and then I think Justin, the other thing, I guess to mention, I understand, I think where you're going with your concern, but that was kind of the idea behind this approach. Instead of going directly to P1 and saying, all right, sounds good, design us a solution and build it. This proposal outlines a process where we hire a third-party engineer that comes in and really does that full system vetting and figuring out what the specifics of what needs to be done. Bill's involvement was more of a, hey, let's look at it, make sure they're speaking the same language.
And I think the proposal in terms of the long-term answer makes complete sense. I'm just thinking, we've already used words like Band-Aid, we've already said the Band-Aid's gonna be expensive. If there's another P1-like company that would come in and put another set of eyes on it, I don't think we have much to lose.
Yep.
And we may be in no better shape, but I don't think we have much to lose.
Well, that's been definitely discussed by Mitch Loomis, Bill, and I. I think we felt really comfortable with Bill coming in and giving us a completely different, viewpoint, who has no skin in the game. That was kind of how we looked at it, and that's where we came to this point.
And I don't disagree with that, and I'm like Justin, I think it's great, the proposals and that. But I think, from my perspective, I wouldn't want to be Bill Adams. I mean, you're taking a lot of responsibility, and I also know there's more input besides Bill. I get that, I understand that. But
Yeah, ultimately the engineer would be designing the system. So,
And again, I'm really less concerned with, this proposal for the long-term state makes all the sense in the world. But this is also 18 months away.
Yeah, I get it.
And there could be a ton of noise between
Yeah.
now and 18 months from now.
Well,
So I think it'd be if nothing else, we can look anybody in the eye and say we did everything we possibly could to keep the lights on for the 18 months. One opinion.
I get where you're coming from.
yeah, that makes sense.
anything else, anybody?
That's it? Drew's not here. All right,
Well, Aaron, thank you. Bill, thank you very much.
thank you guys.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
This is the earliest I've been out of here in 6 months.
Drew might be through security.
Yeah.
Well, that,
Do you want me to stick around for anything else?
I don't think so. If there's no more questions, this is pretty cut and dry. The proposal is something that we've talked about for 2 months. Until they vote, I'm assuming that this is something that we'll move forward with, so,
Okay.
thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Bill's gone. I'm sorry.
Cut
Forrest
off.
told me what to push, I cut Bill off.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you. That brings us to the next portion of the consent agenda. So, I entertain a motion for the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Raise your hand. Approved. No public forum, Roger? No public forum, very good. So that brings us to the reports from the superintendent.
Okay, mine is, of course, in Google Docs. I'll kind of move through this. I think everybody knows that the transportation and parking location and issues is very important to me. This has been going on for a year and a half. You also probably know that I think we will be having some issues by having buses and vans parked on the middle school parking lot as we enter August, just because if we resume activities at full speed, we're going to need everything. We just need the parking spaces for our patrons. That's the expectation. So I kind of put in there maybe, you know, some ideas. I mean, I don't have any solutions at this point. You know, we can spread the buses out. I mean, I can maybe park some of the spare buses behind CTE, you know, in that rock. There's a large rock area there that wasn't there when we started school last year. We can still maybe keep some buses here on the far west parking spots where they're presently parked and try to get as many off of the main part. And I'm almost to the point where we just throw rock out here and ask later. But I don't know. And then, you know, Kaya, you presented some, you know, I haven't called anybody, but a possibility of a site that we'll definitely look into. And so, I mean, we're just in that spot where we don't have an answer. It's becoming, frustration, I think, is more than anything. It worked this year because we didn't have activities. You know, the parking lot was pretty much ours. So.
I just thought of this. Here's my random brainstorm for the moment. So, if somebody donates to the school as a tax write-off, so if somebody donated the rental of their property to park buses on, then they would get a tax write-off for that,
I
correct?
don't know about the rent piece.
If you,
I would have to ask.
I mean, that might be something interesting to look into, because if you owned property that had an access that you could use and they donated it to the school and then they get their benefit then is the tax write-off from it. I would think that I don't know.
But
It
my-
seems to
my-
me like that might be
My only concern about
Yeah.
renting might be if they, you know, we put a lot of effort into creating this spot and then it's sold and then
But
we'd be
like-
back to square one.
well, like for example, the fairgrounds. So like if the fairgrounds, I'm just
Yeah, sure.
like, I literally just thought of this for a second, so just bear with me. But like for example, the fairgrounds. So if that really worked in reality, then they already have roads and they already have gravel and whatever. So then it's not. I mean, there might be a possibility where there's property like that, or I don't know. That's a random idea.
I mean, my best solution is that we create a long-term,
well, yes.
That's what I really want.
Absolutely, right.
so this is just something that is just high on my list, you know, and I think it's not a dumpster fire, but it's still something that we just have to address sooner than later, so, and we'll keep talking about it.
Couldn't there be a committee that discussed it then too?
I
That's
think
something
we're
that-
coming to that point again, you know, the committee came together last year and we worked through it, and things just worked out temporarily. So anyway, we'll keep working on that. The master plan process, we are meeting, I didn't put it in here because it wasn't finalized, but we're meeting Monday with the, I guess you could call it the administrative or executive vision team. We're gonna meet for about 3 hours at the district office. That's mostly administration and like Forrest, I think, Midge. So Amber will be leading that. We'll start at 11:30 and go until about 3 on the 19th. I never checked with Tanya on how the Survey Monkey came out, but I don't know if, did everybody try to fill that out? But we're trying to set up a retreat in June. I hadn't talked to Tanya, she's been in interviews and I've been busy too, so don't know what the results are, but we're trying to come up with something, and I think we can get some sponsorship, to make it a more enjoyable evening. Don't know about Royals game yet, Chris. It's high on my list.
Very good. Very good.
But we are working on it. I'm trying to come, I've got people from McCown Gordon and Piper Jaffrey and DLR that want to do something for the Board of Education. Our administrative retreat is scheduled, we're going to talk tomorrow at our meeting, but the week of the 12th through the 19th, there's a good chance it'll be on a Wednesday, and we're going to work on that. Summer school, I know Tanya's going to touch probably a lot more on it than I am, but we're moving ahead. That's really a high topic of discussion for our administrative team. We met today with our coordinators, talked a lot about food service, transportation, all of those things are coming into play. Did want to mention, this is becoming a reality, and I didn't know it was going to become a reality, but you remember the big sign that was in the media center that kind of looked like nobody really cared for it. It was, it looked like a computer board. You guys recall that in the design piece? It's huge. It's in the media center on the second level. It looked like a computer board with dots and things everywhere. And the consensus was, it looked sort of stock. There wasn't anything particularly about Tonganoxie. Mark Farrar and I approached Leah Kaufman, and you might know Leah, she's an artist downtown. And we came up with this idea of what is something that we could look at this and it would represent Tonganoxie or us. And it is really coming along nicely. So it's become a real effort of taking pictures from our past of Tonganoxie, of old buildings, students, it's a history, and it's going to be in black and white, and then the Tonganoxie will be red, obviously. There'll be color and black and white. And I think it's going to be a real focal point of that media center. As you first come into the new edition, it'll be right off to the right. Anyway, she's working on it, making great progress. She's been working with Bill Newton. Bill has a lot of background in the history. Of course, Tuna, down there at Fleischbach's has a lot of that, and his resources have been great. He has a lot of that stuff. And so it's being incorporated into this. And what we're hoping to do is that at some point we can get it a little a media piece so that when kids go in there, and if you look at like from the left to right, it'll explain who those people are, or that was the old elevator, or that was, whatever it was, and to make it a history piece.
I'm guessing the Historical Society also has.
Oh, no, they've been highly involved. Chris has been very involved.
Mr. Linehan had a whole book in historical documentation. I'm sure they have all of that, so.
Yeah. So Leah, we weren't originally sure if we shared the same vision, but now I'm convinced. I've seen the rough draft of it and feel real good about it. I think it's really going to be a nice piece. So anyway, we're working with her. The MOU, I'd have to talk to Justin, but Justin and I are working on that. I know everybody's busy.
I've got some red lines for you.
Oh, right. So it's just a rough draft. Everything's moving forward with mainly with Brad Eccles, is who I've been working with. We met with Jamie Miller Friday. Actually, was a pretty good meeting. All the superintendents were there from Leavenworth County. Probably some of the big, in general terms, what I would say is the effort is to continue our current policies through the end of summer school. And the reason for that is if we do change our policy about masks or whatever, student safety, we will be subject to a hearing. Senate Bill 40 is part of that piece, and other school districts are experiencing that right now in all sorts of variety of forms. But I think we just need to stay the course We're gonna reevaluate, after, in July, in August. I mean, we just have to see where we're at with COVID numbers, where we're at with everything. We just have to reevaluate before we go in to start school.
Have the teachers and administrators been asked, like, what are some things that you would keep? Like, and what are things that you definitely think didn't work? And
I'm not exactly sure where everybody's at, but that's something that we're talking about tomorrow. And Tanya, you can even,
sometimes there's good stuff that actually has come out of this, like things that you didn't realize before.
High level stuff, and Gail can probably, you're saying, all right, so when the kids get off the bus, do they go to the gyms like they used to, normal, or do we stay or they go back into the classrooms? What the elementary does could be different than what the middle school does. And so those are all just discussions, and nothing has been decided at this point. But I agree, we got to continue those conversations, and that's a large part of tomorrow's meeting is how do we get ready for all the food service, transportation, safety. A lot of moving parts there. I don't have it on there, but I did just get this information late this afternoon. In my Friday reports, I've been referring to the K-Jump, which is actually our natural gas billing, and KSB is in charge of K-Jump. And K-Jump works through Symmetry, which maybe you've heard of Symmetry. So they came out with a proposal that, all right, so we took almost an 18% hit for February. I mean, that's not totally unusual. You've been following the news. It's all over the board. For us, that's probably, we usually average somewhere between 8,000 and 11,000 a month for natural gas, and this would be close to 90 for February. That's what we're looking at. So what K-Jump is saying is, or not K-Jump, but Symmetry says, if you pay that, we'll give you a 5% discount. Wow, okay. Otherwise, we're working with KSB lawyers, and they're filing a lawsuit against natural gas company for $650. We would be part of that lawsuit or legal analysis. And I really think that's what we need to do, is not pay it, join in with other schools that are involved with K-Jump, and for $650 at least, we might get a better idea of where we're at. I just wanted you to know that Lori and I, we need to let them know if we're gonna join this this legal action, and I think we should for $650. It makes sense. Otherwise, we're just gonna end up paying, if we don't, then we pay the increase.
Are there any penalties for not paying it?
Well, right now, no, K-Jump's saying don't pay it until this all works out. We could let somebody else carry the load and not join the lawsuit and see what happens, but I don't know if I think there's some strength in numbers so that the, Symmetry knows that we're serious about this. So that's where we're at with the natural gas bills that everybody has been real.
You could pay, what your portion, this is my dad would always say, like you could pay the portion that, you normally do, like your bill last year. Like if your normal bill was $9,000, then, you're paying, you're paying what?
Well, the problem is they've billed us. They're billing us for 89.
So is that consistent with
Yeah.
how they bill?
It's a little bit all over the place. Yes, it is actually.
Even residential?
No, I don't think so.
So why are they in the school so hard?
Well, it is,
Usage.
some areas are experiencing residential increases like that.
Mhm.
Like significant, but those are typically in cities, and those cities are right now holding that debt and trying to disperse it to the residents, not all at once. So.
But Karen, it is a statewide issue.
But
They all vary a little.
It's price gouging, and there are laws against
Well, that's
price
what we wanna
gouging.
look
So that's
into.
what I don't understand, why this is even allowed to get this far, because there are already laws against price gouging, and why hasn't somebody already stepped up and said, we're not accepting
I
this?
think that's what this
Yeah, I
lawsuit's
think
about.
that is too. Supposedly the energy companies aren't held to any standard. They can build whatever they supposedly want to.
Well, it's definitely frustrating, but we're not paying it. And I think we need to join the fight with probably 70 other school districts, is what I'm guessing. Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Very good. That brings us to Assistant Superintendent Tanya.
All right, we are right in the middle of state assessment time. We've completed the CALPA assessment, that's for the English language learners. Those are completed, scored, and finished. The ELA and math and science testing will be going on any time between April 1st and May 18th, and it varies by building. I do know that the middle school started testing their remote students already. They did some on Friday, and I believe they have another backup date. Remote students are required to test unless they opt out somehow, but that does count against us if they opt out. Summer school, we have been working on plans for that. We have a lot going on. There's so many different facets to summer school. The high school and middle school will have their normal credit recovery, and then we'll have at the high school will offer the chance for students to finish up who aren't quite completed. Middle school and elementary will then also bring in the academic assistance to help those students who are behind catch up. It'll be a Monday through Thursday program. However, that first week will be Tuesday through Thursday because that Monday's Memorial Day. 8:30 to 11:30 those days. We'll provide transportation. We'll work on those details once we know who the students are, but we can't really plan routes if we don't know where we're going yet. We are working on summer meals. Barb is working with the state on exactly how that will look, and it really depends on if they fall under COVID rules. There's food service is a whole nother element.
It's complicated.
Yes, very complicated. So Barb is working on that, but we will have all of that ready to go. We are looking at, we do have some ESSER II funds to use to provide this summer school. We're looking at paying staff members more to teach summer school. So paying teachers more and paying those paras and aides more to come in and do that work because it is so valuable and everybody's pretty exhausted. So we're feeling that, maybe a little more money will help and then also give them a little extra time to recoup after they earn a little more money. So hopefully that will help attract some more staff members for summer school. And then my last item is kindergarten. We started kindergarten screenings on Friday. That was great to see all those little ones come in. I believe we were packed on that Friday. We packed schedule. The 23rd we still have slots open. Everything you can imagine is on the website. So if you go to our 464 homepage and then go to the elementary school, there's a space there in the middle for kindergarten, and there's everything you wanted to know about kindergarten, including the curriculum they use, the teachers, there's a video, there's sign-ups for screening. They did take the sign-up link down, so now you have to call through the office since we only have the one day left. All kinds of info for kindergarten. So we're excited about next year's crew and bringing those kiddos in.
So how did the numbers align with what the gentleman predicted they would be?
Well, it used to be, we do a lot better job of getting the word out there now. But prior to that, a few years ago, between roundup or screenings and then the first day of school, we would gain another 20 to 30 students. What we found in the past couple of years, that our communication with the preschools and in the community has been so good, we haven't seen that drastic number difference. I want to say they had 117? I don't know if either of you guys know. But it was growing after I had visited the screenings that afternoon.
What Chuck told me the other day was there's more kindergartners coming in next year than the last 2 years. So as far as the demographic,
Yes.
it's not far off. I think he was a little low, but there's not a big,
Well,
right now we don't see that, we don't have those numbers or
They're not
the
firm
finals, firm numbers.
Well,
So,
and
It's
there's,
also early.
yeah.
it is early, but there's also some interesting factors. Because of COVID, some parents decided to keep their kids home an extra year.
Mm.
So are they going to be enrolling them in kindergarten this year, or did they do kindergarten at a parochial or private school and then come into first grade this year?
Mm.
So we're just not sure yet how that's gonna shake out. We'll know more once we get through our screenings and then closer to
But can
kindergarten.
you report that back to the board whenever you do know? Because I think
No,
that would be
sure.
interesting to keep comparing it to what his
Yes.
prediction
Absolutely.
was.
Yes,
And
it will be interesting.
And I think everybody knows that the numbers could be skewed. It would probably be our best interest in another year or so to run a same post-COVID demographic study.
Yeah, but if we track that along the way, we might be able to see
Yeah.
if it's.
Yeah, I would love to see over 140 kindergartners. That would be
Right.
great news.
And we've also been tracking those kids who were with us last May, but they didn't start the year with us. They've either been remote or virtual through another district or homeschool or parochial or private. Most of those are indicating they're coming back.
Mhm.
So I know it's well over 100 of those are coming back so far. So that'll be interesting to see too.
And then you already have the money, is it called the ESSER funds, is that what you said?
Yes, sir.
For the summer school?
Mm.
So that's a set amount of money that you got, it's not, if you have a better turnout for summer school in like elementary school, you don't get more money, it's not per
No,
student. or
no, it's a
anything. Okay, so
set.
it doesn't matter
No.
what you're, okay.
Complete, yeah, it's a set amount.
I was just wondering if it would benefit long-term education for those kids if they were, if you were the age group that you should have gone or could have gone to kindergarten last year and you didn't, because, your parents didn't want to send you, and then they are going to send you now, but if it would benefit them to go to a summer school before they entered kindergarten, is that a possibility, or does that make any sense?
We used to do kind of a program that was called Jumpstart, where we brought in those kids from the kindergarten screenings that were pretty low, and we wanted to help them get a jump start on the year. I have not heard that we're gonna do that this year. I don't know if there's a big need for it, but, we have so many of the current kindergartners, we need to be preparing more for first grade, so I'm not sure that we'll do that. I haven't talked with the kindergarten teachers about that.
So is it too early to tell what the attendance will be
Yeah.
for summer school?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we're getting it. A lot of it's coming after some of the testing and, we're just not there yet.
Yeah. All right.
Anything else? No? That brings us to the action items. With action item 5.1, approval of Esky and Associates proposal for the TES HVAC. Based on Aaron's presentation and Bill's presentation here this evening. I know we've been talking about it, so I don't know if there's any more discussion
I don't have any.
needed or questions.
I don't have any issue with it as the long-term plan. I do feel really strongly that we ought to continue to leave no stone unturned
Okay.
in terms of the Band-Aids
Gotcha.
between now and then. So with that, I'd move that we approve leveraging Esky and Associates for the TES HVAC replacement.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Motion carries. That brings us to item 5.2, approval of THS assistant principal.
Yeah, and I handed out the little bio. This could have been in consent agenda, honestly, but I wanted you to see who Kelly was, and we feel very strongly that we've got a great candidate here coming into the high school, and she's very excited about this opportunity. But here's a little bio about some of her background educationally, and she's got a very young family, as you can see. And she came last Wednesday to one of the late starts, kind of introduce herself to the staff, and then stayed for most of the morning, and started making some of those connections with some of the staff, and made a great impression. So anyway, I wanted you to see this. I think it's important that the board votes on it, and just has a better idea a little bit what they're voting on. So I highly recommend Kelly Hoops for for this position.
So is there good attendance for the position?
They had almost 43 applicants,
Really?
and they narrowed it to, they interviewed 5.
Very good.
Yeah, it was a really good process. Yes, there was a lot of interest, which is great.
Would entertain a motion?
I make a motion to approve item 5.2.
Second it.
In favor of, raise your right hand. Very good, motion carries. Item 5.3, approval of KSB membership renewal. You want to talk about that a little bit longer?
It's the same,
As it always has.
yes, it's the same. KSB, the next couple, they always like to get this out ahead in the spring semester for the next year. And it helps me for budgeting, obviously, because that comes out of next year's budget. But nothing's changed, it's all the same. Both 5.3 and 5.4 are what I would call a regular,
Pretty generic.
yes,
Each year.
very much so. Both.
Does the dollar amount change, because it's not in
No.
here? You remember what it was?
I don't, but I was not informed that there were any changes. And I don't,
Are there districts that don't have membership to KASB?
not very many. They're vital. I mean, I use them twice a week, just me. And I know Tanya uses them, the building administrator. They're a fantastic resource. I mean, I wouldn't want to go another, we still have our own lawyer, you know, in Mr. Goheen, but for the things, the day-to-day running, I wouldn't go any other direction.
I don't have any issue approving this, but in the future, I would like to see the dollar amount in the.
Okay, sure.
Do you know an approximate though? Isn't
No,
it like $5,000?
well, is it, I wish,
I think it was $10,000 or $12,000
yeah,
last year.
but it's
Do you know,
not.
Audrey? You know?
No, and Lori has, I gave those all to Lori, and it should have been on here, and it just didn't get here. She's the one that has the amounts. I mean, I'll tell you what I can do, I mean, I hope we approve this, but I will send those out so you can see it. I'll talk to Lori. There's no, to me, they're all the same. It's very similar to prior years, but I don't have the,
So is the membership renewal and then the legal two separate? It is.
yeah.
Okay.
They give us, I mean, they do provide us some legal opportunities if we want it. Like, for example, I know we hired Angie Stahlbaumer a year ago for one of our, and, you know, did a good job. But on other instances, we've gone outside of KSB.
Absolutely.
And so that's how that works. But I would, Justin, I'll send those out. Get that to you. They should have been on there.
So I would entertain a motion for item 5.3.
I move that we renew our membership with KASB for the 21-22 school year.
I second it.
All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries unanimous. Which brings us to 5.4, approval of KSB Legal Assistance Fund renewal for 21 and 22.
I also move that we renew our membership to the KASB Legal Assistance Fund for 21-22.
I second it.
All in favor, right hand, please.
I actually have those amounts from last year. I was able to look it up if you want to do that.
The fees?
From last year.
It's approved now, just send it to us, I guess.
I'll get it out. I'll send it out later.
Okay.
Lori has it.
So item 5.4 was unanimous too, Audrey.
Okay.
And then item 5.5, approval of Dell Chromebook purchase. Is there any discussion about that? Or questions from folks? Would entertain a motion?
I move that we approve the Chromebook purchase as presented.
I second it.
All in favor? Unanimous decision. Item 5.6, approval of DLR service agreement amendment Do you want to touch base a little bit
Yeah,
on
this,
that?
Amber and I have been visiting on a very regular basis about this, and we're ready to get started on Monday, but she asked me if we had gotten this signed, and honestly, we hadn't. But she did make all the adjustments that were brought up at the last board meeting. I know, Justin, you had asked about some of the billing breakouts, and so I think you can see that on the second page. And it's not to exceed, remember that discussion we had, it's in there. So she felt like everything was covered. She would have liked to, I don't even know if I could call her. She's up at Leavenworth tonight on another assignment at their board meeting, but I didn't know if you guys had any questions, but I think it's ready to move, we can move forward on this and feel pretty comfortable with this process.
So the things for everybody to remember on this, and I think we ought to approve it, but remember what not to exceed means. Not to exceed is not a fixed fee.
Right.
If we call her up with all kinds of scope additions, changes, corrections, we will run out of money and she will stop work until we approve more.
Gotcha.
So remember, this is not a fixed fee.
Yeah. Thank you. That's perfect.
So I move we approve the amendment to account for DLR's master planning efforts.
I second it.
All in favor? Unanimous decision.
Thank you.
Which brings us to item 7, executive session. And there's a need to move into executive session for 10 minutes.
I'll do quick.
After a 3-minute recess to discuss personnel matters for non-elected personnel to protect the privacy interests of an identifiable individual.
And I'd like to ask Tanya.
Tanya and Lauren, got that on it? Very good.
Kai,
do that, yeah.
your daughter calls you to ask if she can look through something.
Oh, Kalia, yeah.
The kids would have,
I trained him well.
oh my God, I was impressed.
Yeah.
Well, there's no action from executive session needed. General board discussion, dates, announcements. I had a question, and maybe it's too early, but I know graduation's at the sporting KC Park or whatever. Is that regulated participation, attendance for parents or tickets, or is it like last year?
It depends on Wyandotte County's rules,
I have
and I don't know
not
if
heard.
they've changed
If
it.
they've changed or not?
I have not heard if they've changed. They've changed a little bit of the setup. The kids aren't gonna be on the field.
Yeah.
But
Really?
Yeah, Major League Soccer throwing a fit. Because there's more than just us. I mean, there's like
Absolutely.
7 school districts using it. They're worried about their turf, their sod. But I haven't heard.
So where
any-
would it take place then if it's not on
The kids are, they're gonna set a stage up out on the field, so they'll do that. But they're gonna be sitting up in the stands.
behind the
Mhm.
stage?
I think,
20
you
tickets
know,
per graduate.
you know where we
Or
were
just
sitting,
texted.
where we were sitting, I think they'll be behind us, but then they come down.
And walk out?
Yeah.
It's like per family? 20 tickets per family?
I don't
Well,
know.
for our, he's apparently watching, hello, Mark. 20 tickets per graduate is what he said.
So that's quite a bit,
That's pretty good.
quite a few more.
Fill the stadium.
That's good.
Thanks, Mark.
Mark, we don't want the parents being in the sun. They want shade.
What's
The other
what's
thing
the
I,
date on that, Lauren?
I'm gonna ask Mike Frog. Oh, I haven't.
It's on, it's gotta be on your calendar.
May
23rd?
Yeah, Audra would know. Yep, Sunday, May 23rd at 7:30 PM.
And the only other thing is if everybody's filled out that survey, I'm gonna work pretty hard on trying to get that all corralled for the retreat in June.
I can tell you the initial, we did not have a week free. We did not have an available week. Everybody, there's no week that everyone's free. Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we continue to herd cats. We'll find it, we'll get there. Another survey.
Right.
Thanks. All right.
Anything else? Anybody? No? Favorite part?
Thank you guys. Good job,
Okay,
Chris.
for our next section.